All right, y'all. LMA just dropped a new album, Do You Still Love Me? So let me hit you guys off with the review. Y'all ready? Let's go.
I came to vibe, you came to function, just do that, baby. Don't worry about nothing, no.
What's good, y'all? It's your boy Bright here, the R&B kid, and I'm back again with another episode of On the Bright Side TV. Welcome back. How you doing? Hope you're doing very well. Listen, y'all, like I said, LMA just dropped her new album, Do You Still Love Me? So I wanted to talk about it for y'all. This is LMA's third album. She released it on February 6, 2026 on Interscope and 10 Summers, DJ Mustard's label. And this is a very interesting and pivotal moment in her career because, again, this is her third album. I feel like this is always like the make or break album with a lot of artists. And, it's really cool to see that she's still, in collaboration and in partnership, not only as like a artist under Mustard, she's still on 10 Summers, but really like she's fully locked in with him. Like he still produced every track on this album. He produced all these tracks, and he's the main driving force behind her musical identity. So I think it's really beautiful to see in this modern climate a relationship between the R&B, a female artist, and a producer that's still so strong. Because I feel like that was such a hallmark of like the 80s and 90s and early 2000s. It was like a lot of R&B, especially female artists, locking in with like a particular producer, like Brandy and Darkchild, Ashanti, Irv Gotti, the list goes on and on. A. Marie and Rich Harrison. Like I feel like so many great musical legacies really came out of like an R&B artist, especially when it came to like a woman locking in with a producer that really honed in on her sound and her musical identity. And I love that Mustard and LMA have like done that in this new modern era. So I really wanted to highlight that. I really love that for them. I really honestly, when they first linked up as a pair, I really didn't think it was gonna go that far in terms of like him being like her main backbone of like being a producer for her. Like up until now, I thought it would kind of more sort of be like in the boot up era, but then he still came through for Harder on My Sleeve, her sophomore album, and he pretty much has, I think her last album had a lot of other producers in the mix as well, but on this album it's interesting to see that she has fully resorted to pretty much utilizing Mustard for almost all these tracks. So it's really cool to see their connection, their friendship, and their business relationship still as strong as ever. Like they pretty much are like family at this point, which is beautiful to see because you don't see that every day in the music industry where an artist locks in with a producer and they're like family, and their relationship is still going strong after like all these years. I think they've known each other for like almost like a decade plus now, and they're still going so strong. So I love that, and I hope it continues because it's a really rare thing. So I hope they hold on to that. Obviously, I want LMA to definitely spread her wings and work with other people for the rest of her career. But I love that her and Mustard have locked in, especially with this project. It was pretty much them two working together for the whole thing. And in terms of writers, she has a really small team of writers on this album, which I think it actually kind of really helped to make this album unique, but also kind of hurt it in a way. But I'll talk about more about that later. But for her writers, she pretty much had Gabrielle Rogers writing on most of these tracks, as well as Prince Charles. We love him. Shout out to Prince Charles. And also Varian Wade writing a lot on this album. So I think Varian Wade was one of the writers on Boot Up. So a lot of familiar names that she's worked with before helping to write this album. I also want to mention that this is the first album of hers after having her baby with Jason Tatum. She had a beautiful baby boy, I think sometime in like 2024 or 2025. I can't remember when. So a really pivotal album in her career in many different ways. So I just want to highlight that. And I also want to give love to the visual artwork for this album, which I think is really unique. I'm not in love with the album cover, but I really do love how the front album cover matches and connects to the back album cover. If you guys have seen when she announced the album and she gave us the album cover, I love how if you look at the front, it's like her peeking at herself, or someone pretty much her peeking at herself, and you see her laying down like in the backyard in some garden on a lawn chair with like the table over there with the lamp there. It's a really cool visual with the hose, a really cool visual. But if you see the back cover with the track listing, it's like her being the person that's opening up the blinds and looking at herself. So it's a really cool. The front cover is not like my favorite. It doesn't like pop. I mean, it is a really interesting cover. It's not my favorite in the landscape right now, but when you connect it to the back cover, it's really interesting. So I really love how she did that, because I feel like a lot of artists have like missed that connection of connecting your front cover to your back cover. So I love that she really did that in that way. It's really cool. Go look up if you haven't seen the back cover. It's really cool. Um, and before I get into the album, the one thing I do want to mention about this album that I think that needs to be said is that even though I think this album is solid and I'll talk about it, I do think this album was released a little bit prematurely. Even though obviously the album it's made well. Obviously, it was ready to go in terms of it being an album. I do think if I were on LMA's team, I would have waited a little bit to release the album. I would have waited to just provide a little bit more of a build up for the fans. I don't know if this was intentional on her and her team's part, but it kind of just does seem like the album kind of just was announced out of nowhere. And we knew an album was coming, because she had Little Things last year, which was a little bit of a hit. And we knew this was her time to now put out her new album. But it just seemed like she announced it. I think it was like she announced it sometime in January. And then she was like, oh, I'm coming out February 6th. And I was like, whoa, like, one, let's be honest. Let's just be transparent. There's no hit. Little Things kind of left. So you have no hit preceding this album. And even beyond that, because many artists are releasing albums without a hit these days. Like, it is what it is. That's fine. But LMA is someone that's always kind of had like, her first album, she had Boot Up and Trip. Her second album, DFMU, was like a little bit of a hit as the album was coming out. So that helped it a lot. But this album, Little Things was a hit last year. But now that Little Things has kind of subsided, it's like she didn't really have a hit going into this album. And even beyond the lack of a hit, I also just think that it just seemed like there was not a lot of build-up and promotion and hype that was like manufactured, or not manufactured, but there wasn't a lot of hype that was produced for this album by her team and by the fans. It just felt like it just kind of came quickly. And I really feel like I would have, if I were on her team, I would have given a little bit more time for maybe Tell Her or another song of the album to like breathe a little bit and hopefully catch a wave and become somewhat of a hit before putting out the album. Or regardless, I just feel like I would have put it out sometime in like the early to late spring. Like I feel like this album feels like it would have really done well if it came out like in April, May, June, that type of time, like Q2. Give it a little more time to really build that hype. I just feel like she put it out too quickly. This is a good time in the sense that there's not a lot of R&B dropping. Actually, no, that's a lie. There's a lot of R&B dropping. So I really feel like it would have made more sense for LMA to drop later in the year. I think she should have dropped this like in the spring. It feels like a spring album, and I feel like that would have given her and her team more time to like for her to hit more promo spots and like just build up more of the promotion and hype for this album. She has been like hitting some promotional spots here and there, especially release week. But before release week and after release week, I feel like we've not seen LMA like that. And yeah, on one end of the spectrum, like she's an established name, but at the same time, like she's still not like a bona fide like legacy iconic artist yet. Like she's still very much building her career. So I just feel like this is the time to not play around with just dropping an album and letting that be what it is off of your namesake. Like this is the time to like hit the pavement and like promote and like build that hype. And I feel like her team is kind of missing that this era. I don't know if that was intentional or if they just had issues with like the budget and ways to market this album. I'm not sure what's going on behind the scenes, but and this is not like a knock against her at all. But if I were her team wanting the best for her, I feel like this album would have done a lot better in terms of the numbers and just the legacy of it if they had just given it a little more time to cook in terms of people being hyped and ready for it, and also giving them more time to plan out and map out things that I feel like would have made this album more of a fixture in the culture than I feel like it is. I feel like it's a good quality project, but I feel like it kind of just came and went. Because there's no hit, there was no hype, and there was no promo, and it just kind of dropped. And I feel like LMA is a name where like she can build marketing strategies because she has an established name. It's not like she's an artist that's just gonna drop and let the music speak for itself. Like she has a name, so I feel like why not build off of that, So I wanted to just mention that for y'all, but let me know what y'all think about that. All right, now getting into my overall thoughts on this project. I do like this album. I will admit, at this current time, it's not my favorite LMA album. It's not my favorite album of hers. I do think that's still her debut. I think her debut is still my favorite album as a whole. That album was just like lightning in a bottle in terms of like from start to finish. It was just great record after great record. Like her debut album was really crazy. And her sophomore album was pretty good too. But I think even at this time, I think I prefer her sophomore album over this album too. So definitely it's not my favorite album of hers, but it's not a bad album at all. It's still a really good album. I think overall, it's a solid addition to her discography. It's well sequenced. It feels like a really well put together, well intentioned, well sequenced, just well executed album. And I really do feel like a lot of these songs on the album can go on to become iconic records in the R&B culture. Only time will tell, but I do think a lot of the records off this album had the potential to really be iconic records. I mean, I think Little Things already is a really iconic R&B record in this current time. But even beyond Little Things, I think some other records have that potential as well. And even if they don't become iconic records in the culture as a whole, I really do think a lot of these records are definitely going to be staple, records in her catalog, and her set list for years to come. So I think some of her most recognizable and some of her best songs in her catalog and some of her staples are definitely going to be off of this album. Even if it's not my favorite album of hers as a whole. So I definitely think this album has plenty of highlights that we can pull from. So I definitely want to mention that. And I do think the interesting theme with R&B women that we're seeing this year, with Ari Lennox and Ella Mai and Jill Scott and a lot of other people, I think one of the things I'm seeing with R&B women this year that I love is that they're really doubling down and sticking to their musical identity in a really strong way. I really feel like, Ella Mai, again, with this being that third album, this is the time where a lot of artists usually take those risks and try something new. And I don't think she did that too much on this album, which I think is a critique that a lot of people have, and it's kind of a critique that I have that I'll talk about more later. But at the end of the day, I really can appreciate the fact that she really has used this album, again with Mustard, to really hone in and really focus on her sound and her musical identity, her brand identity. The way she creates her records, the vibe of her records is very consistent. And I have to give her props for using this album to say, hey, I know my sound. If you don't like it, cool, keep it moving. But for those that appreciate my sound and what I give to R&B, this is who I am, and this is how I sound. This is how my records sound. This is what I give to the game, and I'm gonna do it again on this third album. Here you go. And she for the most part, she did it very well. So I really love that she really honed in on her sound and really executed it very well on this project. And yeah, I the same thing with Jill Scott, same thing with Ari Lennox, a lot of other people. I love that we have these artists that are using the albums that are coming out this year to say, hey, I could have taken risk and I could have done some other things, but no, you know what? This is where I this is my bread and butter. This is where I live well, and I'm gonna do it and give it to y'all again, and y'all gonna love it. And I can't be mad at it. I think obviously off of the album title, Do You Still Love Me, I think the really consistent and really dope theme that's seen throughout this album is really just her talking about love in several different ways, really the highs and lows of love. I really do think, especially the give and take of love. I think that's the biggest theme that we have on this album is her just talking about that dynamic of giving and receiving of love on the female perspective and on the male perspective. When people are happy in love, when they're not happy in love, when people are giving love, when they're not giving love, just kind of the ebbs and flows and the dynamics of love at its peaks and at its valleys. I really do think that's the main theme on this album. I do think she executed it very well. I think you have a lot of tracks where she's really talking about the highs of love and the beauty of love and just the beauty that love brings to life when it's simple and when it's joyous and when it's in its good state, and also the way love can bring your whole world crashing down, and it can make everything dark and confusing when things go left in love, and just kind of equally recognizing and equally talking about both of those different states of love, because obviously we've all been through both of those. And I love how this album just feels kind of a back and forth between both of those vibes and moods, and kind of just talking about how we go from one state to the next and all over again. So I really do appreciate the cycle of love being mapped out on this album in different ways. She has so many tracks where she's talking about love being a beautiful thing, and There Goes My Heart, and fighting for love, and when I'm happy in love, Little Things and Somebody's Son. And then you have tracks where she's things are going left, and it's all right, hold on, we need to get it right, and Don't Play With Me, tracks Tell Her and No Angels and Luckiest Man, songs where it's all right, hold on, things are going left, let's get it right real quick, so I really do think she executed that theme very well on this album. The overall critique that I have for this album, which I talked about before, is really, I would have loved to have had, gotten a few more up-tempos for the album. A la, one of these on that 3 EP. I feel her past albums had some really cool up-tempos that really, made those albums pop in terms of the diversity of sound and vibe. And I feel unfortunately, this is her first album where I feel like she's really kind of missing like some up tempos or just tracks in other veins, like whether that's like an alternative track with like a different type of sound and genre, or like even like a true ballad. Like I just feel like she was missing some of those tracks that kind of slowed down the tempo or brought it up or just kind of gave a different vibe and sound and genre to really make it stand out more as a project and kind of break up the monotony of the consistent like mid-tempo groove on this album. And I can't be that mad at it because again, you know, that's her blueprint. That's her bread and butter. It's like the mid-tempo, you know, snap, chill, calm, talking about love R&B song. Like that's her wheelhouse and she excels in it. But and it's not like it's a really bad thing that that's a consistent vibe in this album. But I do think as a fan, I was rooting for her to really, you know, again, especially when you think about the third album and a lot of artists' catalogs always being the album where it was their make or break, where they took risk and really cemented themselves as legacy artists instead of just like a artist that had a short-lived career. You know, I think if you think about so many iconic R&B artists, you know, Beyonce with I Am Sasha Fierce, Brandy with Full Moon, Usher with 8701, like the list goes on and on. Like so many Aaliyah with the Aaliyah album. So many artists use that third album to say, hey, I debuted. I also had a sophomore album that was great, where I kind of built on my debut. But the third album, this is where I show y'all that like I'm not here for play. Like I'm really here. I'm gonna do this for years to come. That third album is where artists always do that. So while I don't think this album is a flop at all, I do think that Ella Mai and her team kind of missed an opportunity with this album to really push herself sonically, creatively, to really go into new territories. And not because she needed to, but because I feel like it's always a good thing to do to show that you're not a flash in the pan and that you really have the chops to be a legacy artist. And because I really do feel like Ella Mai has that potential, so I feel like she kind of missed the opportunity to show that on this album by staying safe with her usual sound. And again, it's not something I'm mad at because I think she excels in her sound and I think she does it well, obviously, on this album. But it's like I kind of, when I first heard the album, I was like, damn, like that was cute. But I'm like, if I wasn't a fan of Ella Mai, I don't feel like this album would have made me be like, oh man, I definitely need to go and check her out and like check out everything else she's done before and like go tap in. It's a cute project, but I don't think it's gonna do a great job of like pulling new people in and making people that love you, that have loved you for a while, be like, oh man, like I'm glad she's like leveling up and like trying new things and like really pushing herself to take herself to new artistic, you know, places that would have really rewarded the fans. So great music on this album, but I feel like that's just the main critique I would have. You know, with it being her third album, I just wanted something to break up the album a little. You know, break up the monotony of the mid-tempo grooves on the album. Some up-tempo, some bangers, some ballads, some alternative tracks. Just some tracks that kind of gave the album a little more life, and you know, just kind of gave it a little more of a sense of diversity and sound and vibe, just to kind of make it pop a little more. I really do think that was a major issue with this album, but again, it's not that deep because I think she knows what she does well and she does execute it well. So, you know, it is what it is. And I can appreciate the fact that she's waving the flag for her type of R&B and she's waving it strong. So, you know, I can't be mad at that. There's not a lot of people that are making the type of R&B that she makes. So I'm glad that she's kind of leading the charge for this style of R&B. So it's cool. All right, just some quick thoughts on some of the tracks on the album. I want to start off with the intro track, There Goes My Heart, one of my favorite, if not probably my favorite track on the album. It's funny because when I first heard this song, it kind of felt underwhelming for me. And I was like, okay, that's cute, but whatever, I'm cool on it. But as an intro track, I always feel like the intro needs to be strong. So I was kind of disappointed. But funny enough itself, it has become one of my favorite tracks off the album. It is such an earworm. Like, I don't know what it is about There Goes My Heart. When I first heard it, I was like, okay, this is whatever. But over time, it just gets better with each listen. It's such a bop. I love that production that Mustard had on the song. And I love the arrangement. It just comes together so well for me. It's such a highlight. A total earworm that gets better with every listen, and I love that song. So I just want to mention There Goes My Heart. And I don't know if it'll be a single. I would love it if it's a single. I don't know if it will be, but regardless, definitely one of my favorite moments on the album. I just love how that song sounds and how it feels, and I wish more of the album had this type of vibe on it. Great track. Next up, 100. I definitely want to talk about 100. It's the third single off of the album after Little Things Can Tell Her. 100 is a cute song. I definitely like it, but I would have never made it a single if I was on her team. The video was really cute. Love the video with her and her boo, like, playing like, Bonnie and Clyde at the casino. Really cute theme, really cute, cute song. But to me, it's not strong enough of a record, and it's not even one of the best songs on the album for it to have been a single. I'm not really sure why her and her team put it out as a single. Out of all the songs they had on the album, it definitely is not a bad song, but to me, I would have never made it a single. And that's not a knock against it. It's a good song, but it just doesn't feel like it's one of the songs I would have used to represent this album and really push it. So that's how I feel. But let me know what y'all think down below. Also want to talk about My Mind, a really cute song. I love how the 90s boom bap in the production of that song, My Mind. I really love how it kind of matches like the throwback style and vibe of the song perfectly. So I really do love how that 90s boom, it has this like throwback essence with the 90s boom bap sound with the production and the very like simple melody and arrangement of the song. Just you blow my mind. Like it feels like a cool 90s song, but like in a really updated, fresh way. So a really cute standout. I also want to mention on several tracks, I think I mostly noticed it on There Goes My Heart and 100. And I think I noticed it in a few other places. There's some really beautiful spots on this album where the violin instrumentation really comes through in a really beautiful way. I think this album is produced really well. Shout out to Mustard. He did his thing throughout the whole thing. But I really love how with LMA, he really takes himself to a different place and goes beyond the basic production he always gives everyone else. And he really hones in on musicality when it comes to the stuff he gives to LMA. Especially on There Goes My Heart and 100, we have these beautiful strings that really level those tracks up in a really dope way. I think it's on some other tracks as well. I can't remember which ones, but I namely remember it being on the first two tracks, and I thought that was a beautiful way to open the album with that gorgeous instrumentation on top of the modern production that he gives LMA. Next up, I wanted to highlight Audio Message. To me, Audio Message is a chop. The album didn't need this audio message. I'm not trying to hate on it, but I personally feel like Scorpios in general are not like one of the most hated or misunderstood signs compared to other signs. I feel like we can name, Gemini, Sagittarius, maybe Pisces. I feel like there's some other signs, Aquarius. I feel like there's some other signs that are more hated by the whole world than Scorpios. I don't feel like Scorpios get a bad rep that much. So I don't understand why she created this message to defend Scorpios. But listen, I can't be too mad at it. Always go off and defend your tribe. I get it. That's that same with me. If people come at Taurus, I'll defend my tribe. Like Taurus gang to the death of me. So I get it. But at the same time, that's like me going off about Taurus if I had an album. But I don't feel like Taurus were like generally that hated compared to other signs. So I don't feel like I need to defend Taurus unless you come for me first. But maybe somebody came for her crazy, as a Scorpio. Maybe somebody came for her and she felt the need to make a track about it. But in my opinion, Scorpios are not that hated across the board. So I don't feel like she needed to make this little interlude. But it was cute for what it was. I could appreciate it, but I was like, yeah, I don't need it. Like, girl, we don't hate Scorpios. I'll fuck with Scorpios. Like, I feel like most people do. Like, I don't know. But I mean, when it comes to love, we know how Scorpios can be. Like, they're very, they can be a little shiesty, a little mysterious, and they can cut deep, when it comes time to hurt back or whatever. So we know how Scorpios do. But across the board, I don't feel like Scorpios get that bad of a rep. So I thought this felt like a very unnecessary part of the album. But go off, sis. I get it. All right, next up, I want to talk about Tell Her. Funny enough in itself, I really didn't love Tell Her at all when it first came out. I hated Tell Her. I was like, I don't like this song at all. I hated it. I didn't like it. But it definitely grew on me in a really funny way because I swore it off forever. I was like, I would never like this song at all. But every time I heard it on my Spotify, I was like, okay, it like grew on me slowly. And now I really do like Tell Her. Like every time it comes on, I'm bopping along, I'm singing along. It's a song that really has to grow on you. I don't think it's one of those songs that like instantly hits you, which is why, like 100, I would have never made it a single. Tell Her was the second single off of the album. And it was released like late last year, like in the fall of last year. And again, cute video, cute song, but I just don't feel like if I was on her team, I would have made it a single to represent this album and to build the hype for it. It's not a bad song. It grew on me. It samples Say My Name by Destiny's Child. It's a really cute song. But I would have never made it a single. It just doesn't feel like one of the best songs to represent the best on this album. So I don't feel like I would have put it out as a single, but it should have stayed as a cute album gem. I also got to highlight Bonus, one of the best songs on the album to me. I love Bonus, such a sexy, slinky song. And I have to say, I love the Timbaland and Aaliyah influence on that track. I just feel like Mustard and LMA were definitely channeling like a Timbaland and Aaliyah, Missy Elliott vibe on that track with the production and the arrangement of the vocals and the concept. It just feels like a track that Aaliyah would have had like on the Aaliyah album, maybe 1 in a million. Like it really feels like that, but like in an updated, fresh way. So I love that song, and I love what it's talking about too. I love how that song is talking about, like, you know, like what I really love about you is like the love you give me and like the foundation we have. But that thing between your legs, that's just a bonus. Like it's such a really cool concept, well written. The production was slinky, reminds me of like a Timbaland, you know, throwback beat. Like they killed it. Bonus is definitely a highlight that I love off the album. Speaking of highlights off of this album, I also want to mention Justice for Luckiest Man, Might Just, and Bonus as songs that should have been singles off of this album, in addition to the push that we have for Little Things. I feel like obviously Little Things kind of leading off this album from the 3 EP was great song, great hit, was a great way to kind of start the, you know, get the wheels turning for this album. But after Little Things, I feel like it should have been some type of combination. I don't know whatever the order would have been. In my opinion, the songs that really would have been great singles for this album are definitely Luckiest Man. Great track. I love that song conceptually. The production is great. The vocal is great. It has great. It's just a really good song that I feel like stands out on this album. Luckiest Man should have had a chance. Might Just, that song is great as well. It has a vibe where it feels like it really could be a hit. And again, Bonus, like especially with that Timbaland, Aaliyah influence, like it feels like it could be a modern hit. I really love those 3 tracks in particular, and I really, you know, justice for them not being singles at this point, and, you know, in lieu of 100 and Tell Her. Like I don't get it. But we, you know, we still have time to make one of these songs a future single. I really do. I hope that Luckiest Man, or I think Luckiest Man, or just Might Just will be future singles. I don't think Bonus will be one. I would love for it to be though, but I don't think it will be. I think off streams and off fan favorite conversations, I think a lot of people are leaning towards Luckiest Man and Might Just as future singles. So I think those would be great choices, and I hope it happens. But yeah, I've not loved the way her team has handled the rollout of this album in terms of the singles. Again, Little Things, I'm still mad about it. They'd even submit Little Things to the Grammys, which is crazy because, you know, there's a good chance it wouldn't have been nominated. But I do think Little Things actually had a shot to be nominated for either, you know, Best R&B Performance or Best R&B Song at this year's Grammys. Whereas, you know, her team submitted Tell Her when it just came out and it didn't build any hype. Tell Her is not the best song compared to Little Things. And Little Things was actually a hit. It was actually revered in the culture. I feel like it actually might have snagged a nomination. You know, it potentially could have. Whereas we knew Tell Her was not gonna get a nomination. But maybe she was waiting to submit Little Things with the album cycle. I can understand that. If that's what they're gonna do, then fine. Cool. But again, I think we'll have other songs that might hit off of this album this year. So I would have just submitted Little Things last year, but it is what it is. So yeah, I wish her team kind of edited the way they rolled out the singles for this album, but at the end of the day, that doesn't affect the fact that this album still has great material, so it is what it is. So yeah, y'all, kind of ending off the video, my favorite tracks off this album. It's kind of hard because I feel like my favorites are kind of always changing, but as of right now, a few weeks after the album dropped, I'd say my favorite tracks off the album are definitely There Goes My Heart. Love that song. Probably my favorite song off the album, to be honest. Somebody's Son. Really cute song. I love the vibe and the romantic vibe of that track, and it's just a really sweet record sonically as well. It's a really great listen. Little Things, obviously we know that track. Great record, great single off of the 3 EP. I'm glad she put on this album. Also, Luckiest Man, great record. Definitely a highlight conceptually, sonically. It definitely stands out. One of the best tracks off the album. I also love Might Just. Again, I think that should be a single as well. Might Just is a really cute song. Bonus, I already told y'all, love Bonus. That song is crazy. And also Chasing Circles and No Angels. I love that 2-pack to kind of end off the album. Chasing Circles and No Angels, I love those songs sonically and also what they're talking about as well. I love those records. They feel really timeless and just well made and well intentioned, and great ways to kind of end off the album as well. So those are all my favorite tracks off the album. There's not really any track that I hate off the album. The only one I told you I don't really need is the audio message. But other than that, I pretty much like every track off this album. But those are my favorites out of the bunch. And for my rating for the album, I will give this album a 3.5 out of 5 stars. I feel like 3.5, 3.5 out of 5 feels perfect for this album. I don't think this album is a 4 and above. I feel like it's kind of, lacking in, musical diversity, taking risk, pushing yourself to, do new things and just really make the album pop in some unique ways. But I definitely think it's a solid addition to her catalog. I think it's a solid body of work. So I think anything like at 3 or lower would have been a little foul. So I feel like this album kind of fits perfectly at a 3.5 out of 5. I feel like that's like the perfect rating. But, as always, let me know what y'all think about that rating down below. But all right, y'all, that was my review of Ella Mai's new album, Do You Still Love Me? Let me know what y'all think about the album below in the comments. Do you guys love the album? Do you hate it? Do you feel like it's kind of mid and it's just cool, and it's like kind of right in the middle, and you would have wanted some more things from her? Let me know down below. If y'all hate it, love her, or you think it's in the middle. Let me know what y'all think. Let me know what you thought about, my review of the album. Let me know what are your favorite tracks off the album. Let me know what y'all are feeling, what y'all think was kind of whack and wasn't needed on the album. Let me know what y'all thought about my review of the album. Do you guys think I'm on point with my thoughts? Do you guys think I'm tripping? Let me know what y'all think. I appreciate all your thoughts. If you haven't already, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And please join my Patreon. Link below in the description. On my Patreon, you'll get all my exclusive content that won't be on my YouTube channel. So like my longer, uncut, full reactions, my bright side mixes, and just other videos that won't be my YouTube. They'll be on my Patreon. So if you like my vibe, this is where this came from, you can join my Patreon below for only $3 a month. Just link below in the description. So appreciate y'all. But yeah, man, thank y'all for watching. As always, I appreciate it. This has been your boy Bright, the R&B Kid. But for now, I'm signing off, baby. Bye, y'all. Peace.
I came to vibe, you came to function, just do that, baby. Don't worry about nothing, no. I came to vibe, you came to function, just do that, baby. Don't worry about nothing, no. Relax just a little bit. You don't gotta worry, you can just